episode 254 of the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. What comes next? Let's start the show.
We are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
Opposed to secret society.
But ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet.
And a secret proceedings.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the common welfare.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hahn, at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram. Thank you for liking, rating, reviewing, and telling your friends about the podcast. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. We all know that old curse. May you live in interesting times. Well, politically, I don't know of any time more interesting than the one we're living in right now. Joe Biden on Sunday announced he will not seek a second term as president of the United States. As listeners to my program have heard me over the last 3 weeks suggest that he would ultimately do the right thing. And he has. The last 9 days in America, for those who have a keen interest in politics, like me, and I'm sure like many of you, have felt like 9 years. I mean, it was only 9 days ago that former President Trump survived an assassination attempt. And he had all this goodwill going into the convention. And then he gave one of the most bizarre, rambling, long, boring convention speeches in the history of conventions. I mean, all he had to do last week was talk about the assassination attempt, reach out to people who think he's weird, and get off the stage. Instead, I was very interested in hearing what he had to say about the assassination attempt. But even that was like kind of boring, right? And then he basically went into a rally speech. Horrible. But Joe Biden is out. And now we could ask the question, is Donald Trump too old to be president of the United States? And the answer to that, for those of us who watched his convention speech on Thursday night, is a resounding yes. The answer to that is, maybe all of these calls for everybody to be evaluated for their psychology and stamina are warranted. And maybe Donald Trump and whoever the Democrats choose, and it is very likely to be Kamala Harris. In fact, I will say this to you right now. If a major contender has not entered this race by Wednesday at 5 o'clock, there will be no major contender to Kamala Harris. That doesn't mean like a Marianne Williamson or some other freak might throw their hat in. That's probably going to happen. Marianne Williamson might have a delegate or two. I don't know if she got one delegate or not. But there will not be a major challenger. I don't believe there'll be a major challenger to Kamala Harris. I think Joe Biden endorsed her. I think that there have been others who've endorsed her. Bill Clinton, Jim Clyburn. The endorsements will come in almost as steadily as the calls for Joe Biden. Actually, they'll come in more steady. They'll be faster. There'll be more of them than the calls for Joe Biden to leave the race were last week. And then we have a contrast between a Gen Xer and Kamala Harris. And those of you who listen to me over the years know that I have been very upset that Gen X has been passed over. Or the, soon-to-be octogenarian Donald Trump, who is not even a baby boomer. He's not a greatest. He's like part of the donut generation, the lost generation, if you will. Somebody born during World War II, whose parents were too old to fight in World War II. So that's Donald Trump. That's a very small generation here that time has passed it by. And you know what? Joe Biden should have done this 13 months ago. There should have been a real Democratic primary, and I regret that there wasn't. But here's where we are, and here's where we will be. And the contrast is going to be great. Now, whether it's Kamala Harris or somebody else, that'll be determined in the next 2 weeks. But I'm telling you here right now that I believe that it's almost impossible, barring her not wanting to do it. It's almost impossible for it not to be Vice President Harris. So get ready. They're going to do everything they can to make her seem like the scariest person on earth. But I don't think they have enough time to do that. And given how scary their candidate is, I think the choice is going to be clear. And I do think that she's going to win if she's nominated. I know a lot of people in my party don't think she will. A lot of people, particularly, the older, whiter generation of my party, are concerned about her. But I'm not. I think that most Americans don't trust Donald Trump. And I think that most Americans haven't really formed an opinion on Kamala Harris. She has been hidden away as vice president. She spent one term in the U.S. Senate. She did a great job as a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, tearing apart people like Bill Barr. And I would love to watch her debate Donald Trump. She should call on him to debate her every week between now and the election. Let's see if he's up for it. I don't think he is. Listen to this. Be right back. Welcome back. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Those are my socials. Now, I know that the Republicans are going to do everything they can to make it so that Donald Trump is the only choice on the ballot. And I think they'll be successful in some states, but I do not think they will be successful in all states. I don't think they'll be successful in swing states. Republicans don't like democracy. Let's be clear. And their message right now is, well, Democrats are short-circuiting the democratic process by jettisoning their candidate. Well, candidates do have a right to decline a nomination. And the nominations for president are made at the convention. They are not made in a primary. In the primary, you vote for delegates. Those delegates are usually pledged to a candidate. The candidate has the right to release their delegates. It happens all the time, right? People run in primaries and they lose. And when they lose, they release their delegates. Now, there may be states that require by law their delegates to vote for who they were pledged to on the first ballot at the convention. And if that is the case, and Joe Biden has enough delegates that are pledged that way, which I don't believe he does, then there'll be a second ballot at the Democratic National Convention that will elect a candidate, a nominee to be president of the United States. Either way, I think the Democratic National Convention is going to be an interesting convention, and I do think that the Republicans are going to challenge it because that's just what they are, right? They think they have an advantage in the courts, and by the way, they do, because of the Supreme Court that Donald Trump gave them, including the one nominee stolen by Mitch McConnell. They do have an advantage in the courts, and they will challenge in the courts. But again, I think the court should ignore this because it's a political question. How a nominee is picked is up to the parties, and it is a political question that should be resolved politically. So we'll see where we go with this. But, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson was on the Sunday shows this morning already telegraphing that that's their plan, that they're going to challenge whoever the Democrats put up. Now, it's harder to challenge Vice President Harris, but remember, Vice President Harris wasn't on the primary ballot. The vice president is usually chosen by the presidential candidate. Now, vice president, people say, oh, she has better access to the money and blah, blah, blah. Let me explain something about money right now. First of all, hard money has been held back for Joe Biden for the last 3 weeks. The soft money could go anywhere. The PAC money could go anywhere to anyone. And whatever Joe Biden has in his hard money account can be transferred over to the DNC. And I will tell you this, that whoever the Democrats pick at their convention in 2 weeks, or if Kamala Harris emerges by the end of this week as the nominee, which I believe she will be, she'll raise $1 gazillion. She will raise all the money she needs to win. As dispirited as Democrats were this time last week, where it looked like Joe Biden wouldn't get out, Donald Trump had a sympathy vote that would propel him to the presidency, they are as excited today that they have a chance to win this election. And not only win this election, but to win it big and take the House and the Senate with them. And I'm telling you right now, if you think you know what's going to happen over the next 3 months, you have not been paying attention over the last 3 weeks. Things have been moving at light speed politically in America. That's why, I got to tell you, I'm exhausted. I am exhausted by this. I don't even know when I could take a vacation. I'm supposed to go away for a couple days next week just to relax. I don't know if I can. It's just been one of those summers that might as well be, the first week back after Labor Day when everybody's going 100 miles an hour. There's just a million things going on. And I don't see any signs of it stopping. I really don't. It should level out. But get ready. Kamala Harris is going to get nominated at the convention. Republicans are going to immediately challenge ballot access for Democrats everywhere they think they can. They'll be doing it in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. They're going to fail. They're going to do it in Georgia. They might succeed. They're going to try in Arizona and New Mexico. They're going to fail there. They're going to fail in Virginia. They're going to try it in New Hampshire. They're going to try it wherever they think they have a chance to win. They might try it in all 50 states. I could see the Alabama legislature, making a bill that doesn't allow Kamala Harris on the ballot. Okay, we're not winning in Alabama. And you're just going to look like the racist state legislature that you are. So go ahead, do it. Give me a talking point. I need things to talk about every day on the radio and on television. So when Alabama does that, it'll give me something to talk about. It'll be very easy for me to call them racists, which I will. Buckle up, America. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild 3 months. And I'm looking forward to sharing my thoughts about it with you every single day. Listen to this. I'll be right back. "24 hours ago, I was relatively certain, but not 100% certain, who the Democratic nominee will be. Now, I'm 100% certain. Kamala Harris raised over $80 million in 24 hours. The Biden campaign has about $260 million on hand, including what Harris raised, and all of that goes to Harris. And I think we're off, right? I think we're off to the races here. I spent some time on Monday just listening to conservative pundits talk. And I'm sure if you listen to any conservative media, you did too. And all they wanted to do was attack Harris for this and for that. Little tiny things, honestly. They want you to ignore all the major things that their guy does and focus on the tiny things that she did. And they have said that the Trump campaign is going to spend $100 million introducing America to Kamala Harris. Okay, go ahead. Here's the thing. And here's what I am trying to get across in my punditry. This election will not be about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris will be the vessel to deliver the message on behalf of Democrats and the Democratic coalition, and more expansively, the anti-Trump coalition, which includes a lot of Republicans. And this campaign will be about stopping Trump. And no matter what you hear, policy. Yeah, great. She's better on policy, much better. And to the extent policy is important in a campaign, I think her position on choice will be very important in determining who comes out to vote in the 2024 election. But the campaign will not be about Kamala Harris because Donald Trump won't let it be. He should try, but he won't. Can't help himself. We all watched the convention last week. We all watched it. You're political junkies. By now, you've seen enough of it to know what a disaster it was. What a disgrace. I mean, here is a guy who had every opportunity to turn the page, to say that he had this near-death experience and to be a changed person. And while his monotone was a change, it was not a welcome change. The message was 100% the same. Donald Trump basically went out there and delivered his speech that he would have given on Saturday had the rally continued. And he will be doing that for the next 108 days. 107 days, I guess, for some of you. He will be doing this for the next 107 days. And you want to say he's going to focus on Kamala Harris? I mean, he had to be on a call with donors yesterday, pledging to them that he won't make any racist attacks against Kamala Harris. Don't worry. There will be plenty of racist attacks being hurled at Kamala Harris by the right wing of the Republican Party over the next couple of weeks. There'll be plenty of them, like day in and day out. But here's what I'm buoyed by. One, now we have somebody who can actually bring the fight to Trump. Right? Kamala Harris is going to bring the fight to Trump. Two, now Trump's the old guy. He is going to be 80. And we all know that Biden was too old to be president. And he's too old to be president. So maybe we should start talking about that. And maybe we should start asking why Republicans haven't tried to get a nominee who's been convicted of 34 felonies, a nominee who a jury found liable for sexual assault, a nominee who has appeared on countless reports about his involvement with Epstein, including video of him dancing and palling around with the guy. Why haven't they asked him to step aside from the ticket? Why'd they go forward and nominate this guy? See, this is the difference between Democrats and Republicans. When Democrats see a problem, there is a structure within the party that will address the problem in their candidates. When Donald Trump took over the Republican Party, the only problem that they had was people not being loyal enough to Donald Trump. And now they are stuck with Donald Trump. And now 2024 will turn into, do you want a 79-year-old seemingly impaired Donald Trump to be president of the United States for the next 4 years? A man who led an armed insurrection against this government and who Republicans in his party couldn't bring themselves to convict when he was impeached. You want that guy? You want the party of spineless jellyfish in power in the United States of America? Or do you want accountability? Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. You can also catch me on News Nation. I'm on all the time. Pretty exhausted from the last week or so. politics and appearances. Particularly, I do a lot of morning television for them. So those early wake-up calls are not really agreeing with me, but they are what they are, man. People have it a lot worse. So I'm excited. I'm trying to put it into words. The only thing I can explain here, the only way I can explain this, you know me, I love movies. And in the movie Armageddon, there's a scene where they had broken the last transmission to dig into the meteor or asteroid or whatever, or comet. They'd broken their last transmission and they thought all hopes were lost. Kids were going into their basements to, the whole thing. And then the other rover, driven by a heroic Ben Affleck, comes over a ridge. I mean, who ridges on asteroids or comets? Comes over the ridge to save the day, right? Or at least we have a chance, right? It's still going to be hard. Still might have to leave Bruce Willis on the comet to detonate the nuke. Going to be hard. But it's now doable, right? I wouldn't I don't want to do a victory lap. I don't want to say we're going to win this election, even though, Nikki Haley back in February said that the first party to get rid of their 80-year-old candidate is going to win this election. And I am really looking forward to the polling over the next week or so to see what the hell's going on in America. And remember, it's going to come down to 6% of voters, maybe 8% of voters in about 5 states. About 150,000 people are going to determine the fate of this election, at least right now. I am not sold that, this can't be a runaway for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump even. But I don't think it's going to be a runaway for Donald Trump. See, people don't like Donald Trump. And I know a lot of pollsters are going to tell you that they don't like, polls from the past say they don't like Kamala Harris. People don't really have an opinion on Kamala Harris. You think about the vice president every day? You don't. So, we'll see what people think. I will tell you this. The Democratic Party is going to come out of their convention united, and they're not going to be thinking, what the hell is that speech that this guy just gave? The Republican convention was pretty much a well-run, scripted affair. They tried not to act too crazy. Some crazy slipped in there. You can't control everything. And I do got to hand it to the governor of West Virginia, who's running for Senate, for bringing out his dog. I liked it. Baby dog. I think we all liked Baby Dog. But then Trump spoke, and it's like he ripped up the script. And he just did what he wanted to do. Said what he wanted to say. And rambled and rambled and rambled. And really did the crazy act. They were projecting all week that, he's not going to mention Joe Biden by name. You know what he did? He mentioned Joe Biden by name twice. He mentioned Nancy Pelosi. That was not in the prepared remarks. Called her crazy Nancy Pelosi. Right? Remember the new tone that they were going to have? The tone was monotone. He talked like this. Then he got off prompter and he got a little bit more animated. You might have heard me say this before. I can't really watch Trump speeches. I had to watch the convention. And it's not because of the reasons you think. It's not because I can't stand Donald Trump, although, I can't. It's because when I watch the speeches, I am thoroughly entertained by them. When I watch those rallies, I'm entertained by Trump rallies. They're entertaining. But I forget in the moment that this man is running for president of the United States or that he was president of the United States. I think it's like a comedy routine. Imitating what a ridiculously bad politician would act and sound like. I'm telling you, America, Donald Trump is going to make this election about Donald Trump because Donald Trump wants all the attention on him. The thing is that 6 in 10 Americans don't want him to be president again. 6 in 10. That's not going to bode well. Doesn't mean he's going to win. I mean, doesn't mean he's going to lose. Okay, I don't want, I think Republicans walked out of that convention so super confident that they thought they were going to win. He picks J.D. Vance, who gives him nothing. Nothing. It's like a mini-me. And they walk out of there thinking that they got it. Do they think that today? Trump headquarters, do they think that today at the RNC, I mean, not the people who are just, sycophants who are going to just tell Trump how great he is, but do they think it? The people who really know, the real operatives who, have been on multiple campaigns before Trump, do they really think that right now? I don't think they do. They're not going to come out and say it. You won't see them on like Morning Joe or Fox and Friends talking about it or talking to me on my podcast. No, they won't be talking to me. But believe me, America, they know. It's a real campaign now, and their candidates got problems. Big problems. Wait till we start talking about what a train wreck his presidency was, particularly the year 2020, which he wants you to forget. He was in charge in 2020. He's the reason why the government shut down. He's the reason why you were locked in your basement and lost your job. Donald Trump. What makes you think he learned anything? What makes you think he'll be better? He won't be. He was a disaster. He will continue to be a disaster. And it's why we've got to make sure he is never president of the United States again. I mean, I'm wishing him a long, healthy retirement in Scotland, playing golf. I'm wishing him that. I'm not, I don't wish anybody ill will, even if people who really have done some bad things. But it's time for this country to put this man behind us. And now we have an opportunity to articulate the reasons why and to convince voters that we need to go in a completely new direction. And by the way, turn this country over to Generation X at long last. My generation. My cool, kind of hip, kind of quirky generation. It's our turn now. It's our turn. I have this conversation on this show all the time with you. Donald Trump and Joe Biden aren't even baby boomers. They're like the donut generation. And it's time for my team, the Gen X team, to take charge. We're the generation with the best music. It's time. I'm excited about this campaign. If you think that there will be no more surprises between now and November, you haven't been paying attention. The only thing I can promise you is that the unpredictable will happen in 2024. There will be more twists and turns along the way. Who knows if Donald Trump will agree to a debate? I think he'll be afraid to now. If I was Kamala Harris, I would challenge him to a debate every Friday between now and Election Day, because I don't think Donald Trump can stand it. I challenge her every week. Every week I'd say, Donald, come on out. What, are you afraid? I taunt him every single day. And if he says no, I'd have skywriters over his rallies. I'd have sandwich board people out there saying, debate, Donald, debate. Don't hide, Donald. Don't hide, Donald. Things like that. I taunt him every single day. Big trucks, billboards. Why won't Donald debate? He won't debate because it was one thing when he was debating Joe Biden. Joe Biden had the worst debate performance in the history of debates. Donald Trump's debate was the second worst debate performance in the history of debates. That will come across when he debates Kamala Harris, who will be coherent and ready to discuss policy. Ask Joe Biden. He'll tell you what a good debater Kamala Harris is. She was a good debater. A very good debater. And Donald Trump, not so much. So we'll see. Going to be a wild year. We're all going to be exhausted by the time it ends, and we're going to need a vacation. But for now, I'm going to remind you, as I always do, to seek the truth. Question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth. I know it's out there, and I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again next week to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thanks for listening to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.